Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because I'm heading home for Thanksgiving in a few days. Trying to get as many videos out as possible. This is the first one of hopefully at least a few. And I'm especially excited because today we get to talk about that rare Xbox salt. And as you can tell from the title, it's coming from none other than CrapGamer. Now, like many Xbots out there, CrapGamer is very unhappy that Starfield did not get a Game of the Year nomination. Although throughout this video, he keeps trying to reassure people that it doesn't matter to him. But it's very obvious to anybody with a set of working ears that, yes, it does matter to you, man. Your feelings are very obviously hurt because Starfield wasn't nominated. Which, I mean, I don't really understand why, and in general, I don't know why people put so much emphasis on this show. But either way, you're mad, so I'm gonna talk about it. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this.
You know, it's not totally unexpected that Starfield wasn't Game of the Year nominated, to be quite clear. I kind of expected it, especially when some of the outlets kind of started lowballing it and then nobody would stop talking about it. It's kind of clear that there's some backlash going on behind the scenes, to say the very least. And, you know, it's very unfortunate. I feel bad for Bethesda, I feel bad for Microsoft, but, you know, listen, I had a blast with the game.
Well, good for you, man. I'm glad you had a blast with the game. I also had a blast with it. However, unlike you, I don't put so much emphasis on these awards. And you guys heard him right at the beginning. He starts by clarifying, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not surprising. But just wait until we get a little further into this. And also, I love how he says he feels bad for Bethesda and Microsoft. Oh, boo-hoo, the trillion-dollar corporation. I feel so bad for them because they didn't get nominated for some game show that literally has no effect on anything outside of the company being able to make a Game of the Year edition for their game. But yes, we should all send our condolences to Xbox and Bethesda. Can we get an F in the comments for Starfield not being nominated? I'm kidding, don't do that. I don't want the comments to be filled with Fs. Whatever, you've probably already sent it or you've typed it out and you're about to send it. Just go ahead.
I'm sure that millions of other people did as well. Kind of surprising, but maybe not, is that Starfield didn't make the shortlist for Game of the Year, and nothing at Xbox did. So this is the thing that gets me a little bit hot under the collar. Not so much that Starfield wasn't nominated or whatever, but it's like the games that are nominated and that were nominated are, you know, heavy sequel games, things that we've seen a million times before. Like, this is why the industry continues to kind of go a certain way. Now listen,
I love how he says that, oh, we've seen this stuff a million times before. Everything that's there we've already seen. As if we haven't seen Bethesda RPGs a million times before. I mean, here's the thing. I genuinely think Starfield is a great game, but I have to ask, did it actually do anything new? Like, seriously, did it do a single new thing in terms of, like, gameplay or something like that? I guess, like, docking onto ships after you disable their engines. But I feel like most of the stuff that's in Starfield has been done before. Kind of weird that you would give the other nominated games crap for being things that we've seen before, when Starfield does almost nothing new. And obviously that's not to say the game's bad or anything. You can, like, not do anything new but still have a great game. Again, it's just hypocrisy on Crap's part. But on top of that, this whole thing that Crap has against sequels is gonna come up in the future in this video. And I have to ask, like, what's the problem with a sequel being nominated for Game of the Year? It's a new game. Now, with a game like RE4, which is a remake, I agree that that shouldn't be up for Game of the Year. The game already came out, what, like 20 years ago? And yes, they did redo a lot, but the game is still generally the same at the end of the day. Personally, I would have put something up like Starfield instead of RE4, but I'm also not going to make a video coping about the fact that Starfield didn't get nominated, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. As long as I had fun with the game, why should I care what wins Game of the Year? God of War Ragnarok is not any worse of a game because it lost to Elden Ring last year.
don't get it confused. I think that this has been a tremendous year for gaming. I think there's been a lot of good games. But I think at some point, the industry has to award and reward some of these games that are taking a risk and just not go, okay, well, which game got the highest, the highest, Metacritic score, right? Because listen, I think Metacritic score does matter, right? I think it's important. It surely is. I think it's a good measurement of things, but it shouldn't be the ultimate measurement of, hey, is the game great or whatever.
Yes, obviously. Everybody is entitled to their opinions. Everybody is different. Everybody likes different things. And when it comes to video games especially, the only opinion that should matter to you is your own. Even if a game has a bad score on Metacritic, that doesn't mean you can't think it's good. And I love that fake laugh that he did like halfway through that clip. Like, you can tell he's so mad. And I especially love that he says, oh, you have to award the risk takers. You can't just award the highest Metacritic score. My brother in Christ, the people who are nominating these games for Game of the Year were the critics who were reviewing them on Metacritic. If a game has a high Metacritic score, then it's going to most likely be nominated for Game of the Year. Every single game that was nominated for Game of the Year had a higher score than Starfield. That is not an accident, and that's not a coincidence. Again, these media outlets who review these games are the ones who nominate them. Why do you think The Last of Us 2 absolutely swept despite being so controversial in 2020? The game had like a 92 or something on Metacritic. And just because a game takes a risk doesn't mean it should be awarded for that. You can take a risk and still end up with a mediocre or bad game. I mean, I would argue it was very risky for the developers of Quantum Error to be talking all that trash on Twitter and then release the game as horribly as it was. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna give it props for that. Taking a risk should only be awarded when it's actually done well.
So, you know, again, listen, I'm sure that this was probably well expected or whatever, but when you think about it, folks, the same people that are reviewing these games and the same outlets are the same ones that are pitching Game of the Year winners. So maybe it really shouldn't come as that huge of a surprise to people. You know, I think that it's a little bit of a shame, but you know, if you want to watch the show, still watch the show. I've seen some people say they're going to boycott or whatever, but listen, video games is in a tough spot as it is. You know, here we are in almost 2024, and people still have the stigma that all people that play video games are like these nerds that live in a basement and, you know, they have no lives or whatever, you know, and it's just, that's not true.
Well, at least Crap realized that the same people who are giving the Metacritic scores are the ones who are nominating the games. Although I can agree that there should be like a big official show out there where it's all the audience voting for it. Because I know the audience does have influence on the Game Awards, but it's mostly the critics from what I understand. I do think there should be an awards show that's like solely focused on what the audience thinks. That definitely would be cool, but even then, it really doesn't matter. Again, all that matters is if you like the game. But honestly, I don't know why this guy's going off on this tangent about people's views on gamers, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip until he gets back on topic. Look, man, I know you got a pad for 8 minutes to get those ads, but come on.
But the nominations for the 2023 Video Games Awards are here. Jeff Keighley revealed the full list this afternoon as part of the stream on YouTube, including Game of the Year Award, which doesn't include Starfield, which, you know, can't say I didn't expect. Instead, the full list of Game of the Year awards in 2023 are Alan Wake 2, a sequel, Baldur's Gate 3, a sequel, Spider-Man 2, a sequel, Resident Evil 4, a sequel and a remake, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which again is just Super Mario Brothers, yeah, like side-scrolling, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, yet another game uninspired in my opinion. To be quite clear about it, the same exact map as the last game, janky performance, you know, again.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt.
Oh my god, it's so good. He's so salty, it's amazing. I actually pulled up the article he was reading from to follow along with him. And first of all, this article is from a website called Pure Xbox, so I mean, that should tell you enough already. Quite the credible source you're using there, Crap. But I just love the way he says it. He says, Alan Wake 2, a sequel. Like, the way he keeps saying a sequel, oh my god, you can just taste the salt. It is delicious. Like, why do you have such a problem with sequels being nominated? nominated. Sequels are still their own original games unless it's a remake like RE4. And like I said before, you're sounding very salty for somebody who supposedly saw this coming. Like, this is gonna sound a little stupid, but want to know the best way to not get salty about something? Stop caring about it. Particularly this stuff, which doesn't matter at all. Again, I don't understand why people get so salty about the Game Awards. Like, I'm gonna be streaming my reaction to it. I'm gonna have a fun time watching it. But why do people get genuinely upset when their favorite game doesn't win? It means nothing.
Starfield is the least nominated for Best RPG at the Game Awards this year, but has extremely strong competition from Final Fantasy, Sea of Stars, Lies of P, and of course Baldur's Gate 3. Hi-Fi Rush is nominated in 5 categories: Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design, Innovation and Accessibility, Best Action Game. And Forza Motorsport is nominated in Innovation and Accessibility and Best Sports and Racing Games. So, yeah, you know, listen, I get it. There's going to be some Xbox fans that aren't happy about it. It's not the greatest news or whatever, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think we just have to kind of deal with the fact that there's always going to be some kind of discourse towards Xbox. And
there it is. I was waiting for it. He didn't say the Xbox tax, but he said discourse towards Xbox. We all know what that means. Oh no, there's media bias. The media just hates Xbox for no reason. Like, give me a break. Critics aren't biased against Xbox. They just like their narrative-heavy walking sim games. And it just so happens that Xbox does not make those types of games. And the Xbox tax argument gets even more hilarious when you realize that Microsoft won Metacritic's Publisher of the Year award in 2021 because they had the highest average score across all their games of any publisher that year. But yes, the games journalists must just be biased, am I right? As you sit here and read off of a website called Pure Xbox.
like, I know what somebody else might be thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe their games just aren't that good. Listen, I don't know about that. I just think that at some point you have to look past the same old games over and over again. Like, to me, Hi-Fi Rush belongs on the list, should be up there for Game of the Year. Maybe even more so than Starfield, but Starfield as a new IP probably should have been representing Game of the Year as well. You know, it's just kind of weird to me.
What's weird to me is that you think Starfield deserves to be up there for Game of the Year because it's a new IP. I mean, by that logic, you know what? Let's put Quantum Error up for Game of the Year. If there was a category for best new IP, then sure, put Starfield in there. But a game does not deserve to be put up for Game of the Year just because it's a new IP. Although, honestly, I kind of do agree that Hi-Fi Rush should be up there. Personally, I would take down RE4 and put Hi-Fi instead. In fact, you know what? Screw it. Let's get Gollum and let's get Kong up there. Welcome to the CrapGamer Award Show, where we don't judge games based on if they're actually good or not, we judge them based on if they're new or not. Starfield wins this year just to spite all those damn critics and the Xbox tax. God, this is stupid.
Clearly, I think probably Baldur's Gate is probably going to is probably going to win anyway, so it kind of is what it is. But, you know, again, I think we have to see how this kind of thing turns out. And it's not right to maybe snub everything having to do with the Game Awards because, you know, one of these days, I'm sure Microsoft will have this breakthrough.
Did you guys hear that? He did 2 fake laughs, and on the second one, he sounded like he was about to start crying. Like, Crap, are you okay, dude? You unironically sound like you're about to start crying. Come on, guys. Microsoft's gonna get a Game of the Year nomination any day now. Come on. Please. There has never been a time, at least in my time doing this, where the crying Craig emote has fit better. Like, seriously, just listen to this again. He actually sounds like he's about to start crying.
Having to do with the Game Awards because, you know, one of these days, I'm sure Microsoft will have this breakthrough.
This is truly amazing. I don't think I've ever seen this before. I almost feel bad for talking about Crap now. He genuinely seems distraught about this. Dude, you're like, what, in your 40s or 50s at this point? Get a grip. This is so pathetic. Oh my god. I just turned 20. I should not be more mature than you. And something else really quick before we move on. I find it hilarious that he's so upset that Starfield didn't get nominated when he even said that Baldur's Gate is clearly going to win. That's why I don't understand why these bots are so mad about this. Even if Starfield did get nominated, it doesn't stand a chance. Hell, even in its only nomination, which was Best RPG, it doesn't stand a chance. So that just adds a whole nother layer to like, oh, why does this even matter? It was never going to win no matter what. But hey, the fanboys will be fanboys, I guess.
You know, I don't know exactly when that day will be, but hopefully it's sooner rather than later. And, you know, that's the day I want to see. You know, listen, whatever. You know, they didn't feel like Xbox games deserved anything this year. Maybe next year, right? Although if GTA 6 comes out next year, they probably won't. You know, they probably won't get anything kind of taken care of. But, you know, for me personally, I find it to be frustrating.
But why? Why is it frustrating to you? We just established that even if Starfield got nominated, it would be crushed by BG3 or Tears of the Kingdom. It's like you said earlier in the video, millions of people played and hopefully enjoyed Starfield. Why does it matter if it gets nominated for or wins Game of the Year? Like I said, this competition means nothing except bragging rights. This is just the opinions of a bunch of major video game outlets. I legitimately don't think anybody could come up with a single good reason for why somebody would be unironically upset about this. But who knows? I'm sure somebody in the comments will be more than happy to explain why I'm wrong on that.
But not like, you know, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. We're not going to be able to get, you know, this Alan Wake game might beat it or whatever. It's like, you know, listen, I'm sure that these games are fine. You know, I'm sure it really kind of just comes down to you know, what other people are playing. I think probably the time of year that some of these games are coming out with. But, you know, again, we'll see what happens. I'm not shocked by this. I thought once Starfield started getting lesser scores and you started seeing like agendas being brought up and things like that, that we would see stuff like that. So, you know, it is unfortunate, but not completely unexpected.
Well, you may not be shocked by this, but you certainly are salty about it. I cannot stop thinking about that one clip where he sounded like he was unironically starting to cry. It's so sad, man. And I love how he tries to suggest that, oh, maybe the time of year that the game releases affects something. That is the biggest load of BS ever. Time of year has nothing to do with whether a game gets nominated or not. It's just which games the critics like. Because, I mean, look at this year's lineup. We have games that released all across this year. Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man were in October. Tears of the Kingdom was in May. Baldur's Gate 3 was August. Resident Evil 4 Remake was in March. And then I guess Mario Wonder was also October. So a few Octobers in there, but besides that, the game releases are relatively spread out over the whole year. And that's only the Game of the Year nominations. That's not even considering all the other categories. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush and Dead Space got nominated for some categories. They were in January. Whatever. The point is, the time of year has nothing to do with anything. It's just how much the critics like the game. And unfortunately for you, Crap, the critics did not like Starfield as much as games like Spider-Man and Tears of the Kingdom. But anyway, guys, yeah, that's pretty much the end of that video. And if you took one thing away from this whole thing, it's just don't put too much emphasis on the Game Awards. And don't get mad when people maybe think that a different game should be Game of the Year than you do. It's the beauty of opinions. Everyone's entitled to one. And like I've said a million times by now, the only opinion that should matter at the end of the day for a video game is yours. If you like a game, then great, enjoy it. If you don't like it, that's great as well. Ultimately, this show is just for fun, and it's basically a few hours of marketing and showing off what all the critics think is the best game. So you can like the Game Awards, I enjoy watching them every year, but please don't get super invested in them. It's really just not worth it. But what you should get invested in is my channel. No, I'm kidding. So with all that said, I just want to quickly say thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you all next time.